Hey, hi, hello, friend. So today our guest is AnaYelsi Velasco-Sanchez. AnaYelsi is an IndoLatinx mujerista and public educator originally from Venezuela. Her work centers on healing, justice, and collective liberation. As the creator of the Interlocking Justice methodology, AnaYelsi invites individuals and communities into deeper relationship with themselves and one another, supporting them in naming harm, restoring connection, and building just, sustainable ways of being together. She is also a self-taught visual artist based in the Washington, D.C. area. We immediately jumped into how trust is necessary for connection, how our past can give us skills that we can bring into the present, how different cultures express things, and the difference between intimacy and sex. We were so thrilled that AnaYelsi is a token straight for the season. We hope you enjoy listening to our conversation as much as we had having it. Welcome to Season 7 of the Queer Consciousness Podcast. I'm Kit Sargent, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Jess Grace Garcia, and my pronouns are they, them. We're just humans wanting to share the lived experience of other humans.
This season, we're talking about all things sex. We want to have deep, heart-led conversations as we unpack what sex means to us and why it's so important to talk about it.
This is a season of unlearning, relearning, and sharing about a topic that is still considered taboo.
Because at the end of the day, we are all spiritual, sexual beings having a human experience, walking each other home. AnaYelsi Velasco-Sanchez, welcome to Queer Consciousness.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so stoked to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
I'm very excited for this conversation, as most people have heard me say probably every single time up until this point is. I love meeting people for the first time and immediately diving into very deep, very heartfelt conversation, especially with legitimate perfect strangers where I'm like, hi, I don't actually know you or who you are. You want to go ahead and talk about an incredibly intimate topic like sex?
Yeah, I mean,
What's
honestly, that can be fun, especially if the person in advance is like, yeah, that sounds cool to me, you know?
Right. Get into it.
Totally. And as a queer person, I feel like it happens a lot, but I would say because I'm from so many different intersections, I've always experienced the best connections that way because I will just dive in. I'm neurodiverse, I'm ADHD, obviously. I think it's obvious at least. I'm an extrovert, which helps, and I'm biracial. I'm deconstructed, Christian.
Poly.
I'm trans. I'm poly. There's so many things, and when you're poly, that's the first thing people want to jump to, is the conversation around sex. And so I've just gotten really, and I think queer sometimes. I've gotten really comfortable with diving in on things.
It's funny because I'm on the other end of the spectrum, whereas I'm an introvert. But that means if I'm at a party or something, instead of doing small talk, I'm in the corner having deep conversation because that's the only thing I know how to do.
Yeah, that I would be with you doing that. I as much as an extrovert is, and sometimes I like to draw a crowd. Almost always when I'm in a large group setting, I'm in the corner getting deep with someone and just really enjoying that connection.
Yeah.
You know? So
Absolutely.
I
love this.
Are you into Enneagram at all?
I haven't paid much attention to it lately, but I used to be deep into it. I'm an Enneagram 8. My friend Audrey, she calls it Enneagram 16 because and I would say that's definitely what I am. I'm an Enneagram 16.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, one of my best friends is an Enneagram 8, and she always says I'm an 8, wing 8, wing 8, wing 8. Because I found that to be true a lot with 8s, is they're very 8.
Yes.
That is what they are.
Yeah.
Yes. And I love that. I am an Enneagram 2, wing 3, but yet very down the center. And sometimes I'm like, am I coming from a 3 side in this? And I think part of that is just because I'm an entrepreneur, and a creative. And so sometimes my source and reason feels very mixed and down the center. But knowing people's Enneagram could sometimes be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, no, I love my 8s, so that's awesome.
And I'm not into the Enneagram all that much. I know enough to have a very casual conversation about it, but anything beyond that, and I'm like,
do you know yours though?
If I remember correctly, I'm a 4 wing 3.
I knew that. I didn't. I was just curious if you knew.
That sounds like I don't remember because it's been so long since I've been in it because my thing is astrology. So when Jess starts talking about Enneagram, I'm like having to play translation in my head to be like, okay, how does
Right.
this translate into astrology and how can I use this to translate what they're saying into my own
Well,
language?
ask us that then. I don't know much, so ask us what ours are.
I was like, I know yours. We've talked about your chart multiple times, but obviously I don't know AnaYelsi. So
I'm
what?
a Scorpio.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm intense. A Scorpio 8, Latina, grew up in New York. I'm not a calm person.
I love it so much. Like,
which is so
my
great
God.
because Scorpio is, as someone who was both raised and grown up with, because my mom and my sister are both Scorpios because their birthdays are a day apart. And so after having had very heavy Scorpio influence my entire life, Scorpio is the one sign that I have the most trouble with because it's literally my entire childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just all of the poking buttons.
Just,
So I'm like,
it's just poking at you.
okay, you know what? Fine.
my wife is a Scorpio, so I love Scorpios.
I
my,
don't have a...
my husband is a 2 Enneagram, so
Oh, there you go.
I love it too.
Oh my God.
That's
We're a
brilliant.
perfect fit.
I love it. I love it so much. All right. So
Let's
We
start
will-
the question.
let's just go ahead and dive right in since we've
All
been...
right.
Well, we actually kind of... The thing that I love about like doing this whole introduction thing is because it gives you a very good understanding of the lens through which you can look at something. So somebody's like, oh, you're an 8. Okay, so you're kind of going to see this like this. Oh, you're a 2, so you're kind of going to see it like this. You're a Scorpio. Okay, that's why you're going to see it like this. And then me being the Aries, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go it.
Yeah.
And
My
then
LA
Jess being the
queers-
Pisces.
Yeah.
I was like, great, I have 2 water signs that I get to deal with today. Fantastic. I love this for me. He's the
Drown
fire
in it,
sign.
baby.
Just
Drown in
Just
it.
drown in it. My fire is just going to be like just kind of tiny little steam coming off, being like, you know, it was really fun. I like this so much. No, I absolutely love it. I love my water signs. They're the things that actually legitimately help calm me down because the only way to like really calm a fire sign down is just douse them.
Yeah.
Because you give them air, forget about it. They're just going to wipe themselves. Anyway, so now that we have a slight understanding as to how we are going to approach this topic, what does sex mean to you?
Ooh. Sex for me has been like what it means has been an ever evolving thing for a myriad of reasons. I just to give a little bit of background of like how I arrived where I am. One, I'm a former evangelical, and with all of the weight that means when it comes to sex, for those that don't know,
Girl.
it's not a super expressive, open thing.
Girl, we
And-
feel you.
Yeah, so I have that baggage that I will probably be unpacking for like decades to come.
Uh-huh.
I have just to jump right into the deep end with sharing. I have some like sexual trauma in my background that has shaped my understanding of sex and sexuality. And then about almost 15 years ago, I started really building relationships within the queer community, and that started changing my understanding of sex and sexuality. So I feel like depending on what year or even month it was, I probably would give a different answer to that question.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
million
Because there's been
percent.
so much influencing my understanding of sex. But for myself, I would say sex is at its healthiest, at its best, is a physical manifestation of some sort of overflow of emotion, and that might be attraction, that might be love, that might be anger. Like it could be a lot of things, but it's that physical manifestation of something that needs to come out that maybe words or other actions couldn't fully express. And so I think that's where you end up with sex, and hopefully, again, at its healthiest, that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. I feel like what I love about the answers that we've been getting is that they tend to lean this direction. Less descriptive of like a physical experience
Yeah.
and more descriptive of like a spiritual and emotional experience.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I think there would have been a time in my life answering that question where I would have been like, oh, sex is, penis and vagina, to, the full experience, or however you want to put it. And wouldn't have considered like sex can look like so many different things and so many different forms, that might not involve that at all. And
Right.
still be sex.
Right. One of the things that someone shared, and I'm trying to remember, I think it might have been our guest, Dr. Jolie, but someone said something along the lines of, I was having sex far before I thought I was actually having sex.
Mm,
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like, oh, I thought my first time having sex was in my 20s. Nope.
Yep.
And I was like, that's so true, you
Yeah.
know? For me, as someone who was like fearful of the penis, didn't want to be anywhere near it because of my evangelical trauma. It was like, that could get me pregnant. Let's stay away
Yeah.
from that.
Mm-hmm.
What's the safe way to express my sexuality
Right.
and my desire and my pleasure? And yet also like the furthest thing from safe
Yeah.
in terms of my faith and my belief system and who I was surrounding myself with. And yet, thank God, my gut instinct was to still do what felt good for me.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so my first time having sex was like at 17, and I think I've always said that, and like that's always how I've seen it. And I'm glad that I didn't, even though in my brain I had to do a lot of leaping around, like, is this sex? Is this really sex? I knew it was, you know? And I find that a lot of my friends who have had sex with people of the opposite gendered more often, it's a little bit of a longer discovery of what you just said.
Yeah. I mean, not to keep harping on the evangelical thing, but it's so formative. But
Harp on it all you want.
Yeah. I mean, the game in evangelicalism is the loopholes. Like, how close can I get, like, to the line with just a little toe on the line, but not past it. And I feel like that's what my 20s were. My understanding of sex was like, what are the loopholes? How close can I get without going? And I feel like that's a game that a lot of people have played, even outside of like Christianity or the church or religion. Like, I think we're
Totally.
taught that culturally, this is what sex is. And we're taught modesty in a lot of different ways, religious or not. And that comes with the loophole game. Yeah.
Well, and that religious colonization is where that comes from.
Yes,
I mean, like,
absolutely.
if you think about who the majority of our colonizers were, they were people who claimed to be
Puritanical.
Christian.
Yeah. Puritans, Protestants.
Yep.
Yeah.
The real
Catholics.
straight-laced. Yeah. Catholics.
Yeah.
The real straight-laced ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they were trying to spread this, this specific ideology, this way of being, this way of thinking. And it has affected, generations upon generations upon, centuries and centuries of people.
Yeah.
And it's such a wild experience to find cultures who weren't touched by that.
Yeah. I mean, I think even just like, think of this halftime show we just had with Bad Bunny and the like FCC and all these people like, oh, it was so sexual. It was so offensive. You don't even know what language, like what they're saying because you don't speak Spanish, but whatever. But like this, just seeing bodies gyrating, just seeing like what is not necessarily a sexualized thing in Latin culture because of this like American puritanical approach to sexuality. Oh, that has to be sexualized. It has to be offensive, as opposed to it just being expression, just being dance. Like, it's we're so deeply entrenched in it.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I've been fortunate that I've been able to weed out a good portion of the people that would have those kinds of things to say. But when I did hear that people were saying it was sexualized, I was like, what?
It's dance.
Did you you watch the same thing I did? That they're just dancing.
And then I mean, if we're gonna just unpack this just a little bit, do you guys remember the Justin Timberlake, Janet Jackson?
Oh, absolutely.
Of course we do.
Of course we do. We're all millennials here. This is what we remember. That
is not what we are currently talking about. Like
No.
what Justin Timberlake did to Janet Jackson on a
Yes.
national stage was not okay.
No.
Nope.
That was basically televised assault.
Right. And to equate the two is so disingenuous.
So disingenuous, especially because of the fact that Latin culture, from what I understand and from what I have gleaned through different conversations and just my own learning, Latin culture is incredibly expressive
Yes.
in all of the ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like you walk into a house and you are going to get kisses on the cheek from literally everybody. You are going to get bear hugs and I'm going to hold you until I squeeze all of the air out of your lungs from
You're gonna
everybody.
get great food.
Yeah.
You're going to get
Yes.
fantastic food. Like you are going to feel so loved in all of the ways. And some people are just like, why would you let a perfect stranger like kiss you on the cheek or like on the forehead? Like, because that's how you express love. Like that is not something that is uncommon. And
Yeah.
it would be more uncommon if you didn't do it.
Yes. Would stand out. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Then you would stand out. So like you walking in and you're like, oh no, I don't do that. Everyone's going to be like,
Yeah, this is my upbringing. Like my mom was adopted by, Italians at least, but she was they were
Also
they moved-
expressive.
also
Yes.
expressive, yes.
So so she's not Italian. She was Irish, English, Welsh, French, German, and very white, blonde and blue eyed. And then my dad was Mexican, Spanish, and they both grew up in loud homes, right? But the culture around the way that you interact with each other was different. So okay, we didn't know that you were supposed to have your decibels about 10 below, right? Like I had to really learn how to have an inside voice because I did not know growing up that way. And then it was like the interactions during Easter and Christmas or what holidays when we would see family, such a vastly different experience. So I would mask up, for one encounter here, and then unmask for another encounter here, but yet also mask a little bit. So there was this balancing of who I was
Right.
in either of those spaces. And I think that's part of why I've been able to take that as and make it a skill, this ability to be my authentic self while also adapting to the space that I'm in to make others feel safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah, I my background is in community organizing. I started organizing in around 2008, and my upbringing of going through the foster care system and living most of my childhood in group homes. I was in 20 something different schools before I graduated high school.
Jeez.
I think all of it, as unfortunate as it was, actually made me a really good organizer and has made me really adaptable, a bit of a chameleon.
Right. And I think if we're going to relate this back to sex, which I think is very possible, it's allowed us to want, and for me, I have always desired a slight amount of discomfort. I don't like being in spaces where I feel completely comfortable from the perspective of other people's comfort.
Yeah.
Even if I'm even now, if I'm in an entirely queer space where everyone reflects what I look and feel like, I'm like, this is cool, but also it would be great to have maybe well, also not just straight, but we might need more more trans women in the space. We might need more gay men in the space, which is weird to say, but we might need different age differences in this space so that I can keep learning and growing and having those challenging conversations instead of us having the same kind of cycle conversation. Now that season of being around people with like-mindedness was important.
Oh yeah.
For a season, but at some point I said, I think it's good to be in that discomfort, because then I craved that and I would go and I'd find those spaces where maybe I didn't know as much.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how I kind of tripped and fell into kink space when you would look at me and maybe say and hear about my experiences and might say oh, you're a little bit vanilla, but I really love the bluntness of kink
Mhm.
space, and I love the community that they bring, and I love the way that they talk about sex and consent. And so I enjoy being around my kinky friends. I might not enjoy the same things they enjoy, but that's okay
Yeah.
because I like learning. And I'm
I
okay
relate
with a
to
little
that so
discomfort, right?
Yeah. No, I really relate to that. I think someone would describe me a little bit vanilla also. I'm like vanilla, but with like weird, I don't know, maybe I'm more of a Neapolitan.
Yes.
I love that.
I've
Like-
got a few things that are like,
exactly.
yeah, definitely.
Like I'm not quite vanilla, but
don't call me vanilla. I can call myself
yeah.
vanilla a little bit.
yeah. But I have enjoyed being in so many different spaces with people who had vastly different sexual experiences or understanding of sexuality than I do. And I've learned so much. And for example, when it comes to consent, like I'm not somebody who's into like kink or BDSM necessarily community, but I've learned so much about consent from those communities that I think most like heteronormative, really straight-laced couples could really stand to learn from. And that's been a benefit to me in my own relationship. Just being in conversation with people who don't think the way that I think and don't live their lives out the way that I live my life out. So yeah, I relate to that deeply.
Hey, friend, I just wanted to take a few minutes to do a quick breakdown of what we're offering in the Patreon. So here it is. We have 3 tiers. Our first tier is the $5 community support tier. This tier helps us pay for things like the podcast feed and the Zoom membership so that we can record. You also get access to my episode blog for every guest where I share my thoughts on our conversation that I didn't get to say in the episode. Once we have 10 patrons at this level, we'll start doing a monthly community hang on Zoom with me and Jess. You also get to watch the video as well as hear the Patreon exclusive chat that we save for after the episode. We'll also shout you out in the episode intro for joining. Our second tier is the $10 producer tier. This is the salary tier. When you sign up for this tier, everything goes straight to Jess to compensate them for the work that they do on the pod. At the end of the episode, you'll also get a special shout out as producer, as well as everything in the $5 tier. And our third tier is the $25 patron tier. How it breaks down is this: $5 for podcasting expenses, $10 for Jess's salary, and the other $10 will go into a community aid fund. That fund will be used for community support of the Patreon community, organizations and nonprofits that support the queer community, or other endeavors that are voted on by the members of the Patreon. We also have all the videos from season 6 in the Patreon, and I did a blog post for all of those episodes as well, so you can go and read those, as well as all the blogs from season 7. We have a bunch more ideas that we'll be posting as we start doing more push goals. So go check it out. And thanks for supporting us. Now, back to the conversation. One of the guests that we just had on is part of the kink community. And one of the things that he constantly reiterated, to the point where I wrote it down like 4 times in my notes as I was going through the episode, was consent and how kink is so important in teaching people safe consent.
Yes. Enthusiastic consent.
That too.
Yeah.
Because consent builds trust.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for you to really be able to have these types of conversations, there has to be a level of trust there.
Yep.
There has to be that enthusiastic consent right from the jump. And I mean, we've said this multiple times, but people who, like, not everybody gets to hear the entirety of our podcast. They pretty much only get to hear the intro and that's it. But a lot of times before we've said a couple of times that we have this preamble because we like to be able to give our guest the opportunity to give us enthusiastic consent because we want that foundation immediately.
Right.
And the easiest way to do that is through conversation, is through connecting through something as simple as Enneagram or astrology or something that you're interested in, to be like, oh, we are coming at this from the exact same position. We might be looking at this picture differently, but we're looking at the exact same picture. And now we're to each other describing, oh, what do you see? What do you see? How do you understand this? How do you understand this?
That's the key, right? Is the communication.
Right.
Yes.
Like having good communication is something that I find, a lot of my straight friends struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's because they've just given in to the idea that men and women just don't communicate the same way. I'm sure there's plenty of things that they've just said like, okay, well, this is just the way that it is.
Mhm.
And so my friends who have like you, AnaYelsi, like how you say like getting into queer community 10 years ago was helpful.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Formative. Yeah.
huge. What a great word. And I think like that's something that the queer community has to offer is that we can't move forward without good communication. Like we have to talk about these things. And I would say even more so in trans community, because there are moments that you're like, okay, well, what feels good to you in terms of what parts of your body are you okay with me being in? What parts of your body are you okay with me touching? What parts of your body, do I need to name this way versus this way? Like how all of these things are conversations you have before you ever have sex
Yeah.
with someone in the trans community. And so that experience has like been so helpful and eye-opening for me, being able to see and hear those conversations out loud. One of the things that we've talked about a couple times on the podcast as well is just like conversations around like I'm entering perimenopause and I'm be 39 in a couple of weeks, and like that is not something my mom talked about. It's not something that my elder women in my life spoke about. So like there's just things that I hope that we can learn from this open communication and continue to benefit from
Yeah.
each other and each other's ability to talk about it. I remember there's one story of like an old friend of mine who shared with me an experience that she was having with her husband, and she was new into kind of having chronic illness and certain kinds of chronic pain, and all the things that used to feel good weren't feeling good anymore. And she said to me, I just don't know what to do. It's starting to feel like I'm forced to do something I don't want to do, and I don't want to resent him. And I love him and I want to give him the things he wants. And now all of a sudden I can't do that. And I kind of suggested, so hilarious, a queer person who's never, like not really had sex with someone of the opposite sex. I've done some fun things, but not had sex. And but I was like, this sounds familiar to me because my wife is chronically ill and has pain, and a lot about our relationship had to shift in order to make it enjoyable for her. And she was just kind of like drowning. And so I said, what if you took back the power? Like, I know that you've enjoyed previously him being more dom, you being more sub, or whatever language you want to say, him being more top, you being more bottom. What if you guys kind of switched that a little bit? Like, what if you said, like, because a healthy sub dom relationship, which I've learned about, is that the sub is really in control, right?
Right.
So what if you said, I don't know if I can promise intercourse, but I do want to do sexy things. And what if I call the shots this time and you just listen to me for a little bit? And I'm telling you, I gave a few more tips, and a week later, and it all had to do with control. It was all about her taking back control, because the mental thing is what she needed to overcome.
Right.
Because she knew what might feel better in her body, but she didn't know how to do it mentally, right? And I challenged her to think that maybe it's because letting go of control wasn't fun anymore, because she lost control in all these other aspects of her life.
Yeah.
And the world was coming at her really fast. And so I said, maybe take back control and ask him to allow you to do that so that you can have a healing experience, not just in sex. Like, this is like a life thing that you need to have some healing in. And she came back to me a week later and she was like, oh my God, we had the best sex. And it was so good, and it felt so good. And I'm so thankful. And that made my heart so happy.
Yeah. Good for them.
And I think like, it wasn't because of me. It was just because we were comfortable talking about sex.
Right.
With each other.
Yeah.
Which would have never happened had I stayed in the spaces that I grew up in, the evangelical spaces I grew up in. Because even I was comfortable talking about those things then and would get accused of like all kinds of ridiculous things. I led a prayer group when I was 17 and was pulled from that leadership because I was willing to let the girls talk about the fact that they were dealing with temptation and dealing with wanting those things and wanting to masturbate
Right.
and wanting to do these things. And because it got back to them that was a topic of conversation as an acknowledgement of sin, in that moment, I was still the person in trouble for allowing that conversation to happen when I was like, this is the most healthy thing we could do is acknowledge this stuff and not, oh, I didn't do Bible study or I didn't wake up for my morning,
Quiet time.
quiet time. Thank you. I'm glad I forgot what that word
Yeah,
was.
right. God.
Still remember all the lingo, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll.
Sorry for that long story, but we've come so far.
Well, I mean, what I was gonna add on to that. Like, that's the purity culture of it all.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, those of us, especially, I'm guessing the three of us all grew up at the peak of purity culture, where it was like you basically have to lock yourself away until your wedding day, and then as soon as you have that marriage band on your finger, you have to be the sluttiest slut for your
Right.
husband. Like, it's basically
Well,
you
your
are
husband who was your brother yesterday.
correct. Yes. Yeah. Right. Well, not
Which
even
is so
yesterday. It
weird.
was like 2 hours ago. You were like, I'm not supposed to be
Yeah.
so attracted to you. And now it's like, we're going to get down, and it's like a freak in the
Right.
sheets, but a lady in the streets. And it's like, you cannot flip it that quickly.
No. And then you end up with marriages that are struggling because they are struggling with sex, and then they can't talk about the struggle because they've never
Mhm.
learned how to have a conversation about sex. And it spirals, and you see marriages fall apart, or you see people become roommates. And that's not to say that sex is necessary to have intimacy. Like, I love, honestly, your story, Jess, about your friend, because I struggle with chronic illness and chronic pain, and it's really bad sometimes. And between that, from like me having that issue, and then my husband having SSRIs that affect his libido, sex is not always like at the top of our agenda. Like, we'll go seasons where it's just not happening.
Yeah.
But I would argue, and this sounds really braggadocious, but like, I would argue we have some of the best intimacy you could see in a marriage. Like, we are so intimate and we are so loving. And we're very comfortable with touch and expression. And that doesn't necessarily lead to sex. That doesn't always mean that sex is involved. But we don't become roommates. We don't lose our closeness. It's just expressed differently than it might be expected in other couples. And I've, like, for a while, I was not sure I was comfortable with that. Like, we even went and saw a sex counselor because we're like, oh, is this something, like, we're trying to be really proactive. Like, is this something we need to address?
Right.
And
Are we
realizing-
broken? Does
Yeah,
something
exactly.
need to be
Because
fixed?
we had been
Yeah.
given such an image in our mind of what it was supposed to look like.
Right,
If you're
right.
in love, you should be jumping each other's bones day in and day out. And we weren't doing that. And so, is there something wrong? No, there's nothing wrong. We're so intimate. We're so loving. And when we let go of that expectation that we've sort of been given, we're fine. We're
Yes.
good with the way we function. But we had to let go of that, like what we had been taught it was supposed to look like.
It's so true. And I think we've all been taught it, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh,
like
yeah.
it comes into our relationships in all kinds of interesting ways. Like on the other end of the spectrum, I would like to maybe have you think about what you'd be comfortable sharing is
Yeah.
intimacy
Sure.
to you, because I would love to hear more about that. But I was just thinking on the other side of the spectrum, friendship. Like when I have a best friend who likes to hold my hand. And we went to a concert, and he didn't want to lose me in the concert. And we're walking back to the car, and he asked if he could hold my hand. I said yes. So we're holding hands and we're walking back, and I'm feeling within myself this like interesting, like, how much longer are we supposed to hold hands? Even though I know I'm enjoying this. This is so sweet. This is so cute. And I'm loving that he wanted this connection.
Yeah.
And then we get to the point where we don't need to hold hands anymore, that there's not a lot of people. And he's still holding my hand. And I said to him, do you still want to hold hands? And I started to let go. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And it was such a sweet moment, but it was challenging. This was last year, folks.
Yeah.
And we've been friends for best friends for like 6 or 7 years. And so like the fact that my brain was having a hard time with maybe the fact that, yes, he's a trans guy, but he's a guy. Maybe I was having
Right.
trouble with that. What is comfortable when it comes to the kinds of people I hold hands with? Is this appropriate? There were just all these like little stupid things that were piling up
Right.
when I was just like, why isn't this? This is great. This is my best friend. And so I had to work through that in my body and in my brain.
Yeah.
And so like it's interesting like how we define intimacy and what is told to us is appropriate with certain kinds of people.
Yeah.
But I am curious. I'm curious what intimacy looks like for you.
It's a lot of different. I mean, for one, I think we're always touching. Like we're like I was laughing at us a couple weeks ago. I wrote on Threads. And I was like, even I was like, oh, this is so gross. We had gotten up from the bedroom and we were walking to the kitchen. We only have like a 900 square foot apartment. This is not a long walk, and we were holding hands walking to the refrigerator. And I was like, oh,
that's so adorable. I love that. My lip cannot go out further, and I want it to because that is so cute. I
That's
can't.
amazing. But I was like,
I
we're
love
doing too
that.
much. But like we're always touching. We're rarely not trying to get as close as we can with each other. And I say that as somebody who, because again of my upbringing, I didn't have a lot of intimacy in my childhood. There wasn't getting told I love you. I wasn't getting hugged. I was neglected a lot emotionally. And so this is not something. It's not something I was comfortable with even 10 years ago.
Sure.
Through my two best friends, I told my husband I credit them with me being able to receive his love, because before them, I never said I love you and I never hugged people. And they helped break down those barriers for me. And now I see that in my intimacy with him. We're like, yeah, sometimes I still get like, I don't want to touch. So I'll put one finger out and he holds my finger.
Aww.
And because I'm like, I just don't want to touch, but I also don't want to not touch. And that obviously makes no sense. But
no, that's such a neurodivergent thing, though. It's that where you're like, you are so overstimulated, but you know for a fact that you need something to ground you in that moment, because you're like, no. I know for a fact that everything is just yeah. But I
don't
also
want to be
need
apart.
Right, but I also need something to ground me in the
Yes. And so I'll give him my finger and he'll just hold my finger. And it's one of my favorite things because he's so willingly adapted to like how I need for us to express our intimacy in that moment. But so it's a lot of closeness. It's a lot of verbal intimacy. So like we're very expressive with each other. Even in conversation, sometimes we'll just like put our heads against each other, our foreheads, and we'll just like that's how we'll be talking. So it's stuff like that. It's like very small, intimate gestures that make me feel loved all of the time, even when I'm not necessarily comfortable with physicality. So it can be really beautiful.
With the chronic illness stuff, one of the ways that me and my wife Erica, learned to kind of deal with that is that, she would say, take my hand and put it where she was comfortable putting it, the way that you said with the finger. And then she would say firmer, right? Often it was firmer touch versus lighter touch. Light touch felt really, really worse. Like either it felt painful or it felt just like overstimulating because she's autistic. And that was just one example of so many examples that are how we kind of continue into intimacy with each other. And we've also discovered in the last couple of years, thanks to our wife Jana, that she was kind of on the ACE spectrum, and that helped us to kind of not be placing blame. And there wasn't. We weren't doing that, but I think there was still internalized blame. Like, it wasn't blame on each other. It was more like, oh, why can't I adapt to this for my partner? Because I love them so much and I'm working so hard to meet them where they're at. And yet I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? It wasn't what's wrong with them. It was what's wrong with me. And so getting some labels and understanding around sexuality and sexual desire and pleasure and all of that was really helpful, you know? And I love to hear when what is it? It feels like it was a thing back in the day, like a couple of years ago, where it's like bi wife energy describing certain men.
Yep. That's my husband.
Yes. And the way you're talking about him makes me feel so much like that's him.
Yep.
And I love hearing that. I love hearing about a man who really just wants to like communicate and meet you where you're at, and yet can maybe still communicate, this is kind of what I need or want right now.
Yeah.
And even if that isn't something you can give me, can we at least talk about it?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, looking back to the conversation earlier with the Enneagram, myself being Enneagram 8, which is usually a lot of personality traits that are attributed to men. My husband being Enneagram 2, which are usually like that helper mentality that's attributed to women. And I remember I was on a retreat with Father Richard Rohr, and he was talking about this. And he was talking about how usually in couples, when you see the 8-2 dynamic, the man is the 8 and the woman is the 2. And it was interesting to think about our relationship where it's the inverse. And he said, like, oh, that works really well because you're going against gender norms, and it allows you to be fully yourself and be received in a way that maybe wouldn't necessarily normally be in a relationship. Because in some ways I'm very, very feminine, or however. I don't really like feminine masculine language, but
me either. But sometimes it's helpful for describing certain things.
But in a lot of ways, my personality traits would be attributed to men. Which is why I've been like in jobs, I'm constantly told I'm too confrontational, I'm too intimidating, I'm like all of those things. And then being a woman of color on top of it, like it's a mess.
Yep.
But it's been interesting in our relationship to see the inverse happening and to see how well we function together. And I think if I wasn't with a man who was a 2 or didn't have my husband's personality type, I could see the marriage not going as well, not being as healthy, because I would be constantly grading against like expectations of how to perform femininity. And I don't have to do that in our marriage. So it's while I don't think I'm like gender expansive, but I in some ways I definitely transgress, and I'm allowed to in our relationship, which has just been really healthy for me.
Oh, and I think that's why I assumed you were queer when I reached out to you.
It happens a lot.
Which is a beautiful compliment.
Yeah, I every time I'm like, oh, thank you. A friend of mine sat me down once and was like, I just want to thank you for being such an example, a queer woman of color. And I was like, oh, sweetie, I'm boringly straight. But thank you so much.
I'm glad I have done all of the work to
Yeah,
actually break all
that.
of these norms. Yeah, I like not being in the binary as an immediate default setting. Yes, thank you.
It's freeing for me. Like, it's so freeing. I wish more straight and cis people would have that like capacity and experience. I think we'd be a lot healthier.
The other person that we had on this podcast was last season. That was Derek Webb, and I was able to tell him that to his face. I was like, I hope you take this as a compliment, but I distinctly remember being like, are we sure Derek is straight?
This podcast is hosted by me, Kit Sargent, co-hosted and produced by Jess Grace Garcia of Springwood Productions, and the theme music is by Brian Smith of Holy Holy Music Productions. If you could do us a huge favor and please like, follow, comment, share, do all of the things on all of the socials. You can follow the podcast on Instagram @_queer.consciousness for all the latest episodes, as well as any other exciting news. When you're listening on Spotify, please leave a 5-star rating and use the comment box for anything you'd like us to talk about. When you're listening to Apple Podcasts, please leave a comment and a 5-star rating. If you'd like to be on the podcast, send a message to queerconsciousnesspod@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/queerconsciousnesspodcast. We are trying to grow as organically as possible, and this helps other like-minded people who want to empower and encourage others on their journey. So until next time, remember to stand in your truth and know that you are worthy, just as you are. Hey friend, just wanted to take a quick second to remind you that if you or someone you know is struggling and don't know where to turn, the trained volunteers at the LGBT National Hotline are here to help. Because sometimes the strongest thing to do is to ask for help. The National Hotline phone number is 888-843-4564. And if you want to check out the other things that they have available for them to help you with, you can check out the lgbthotline.org in order to be able to see all of the services that they offer in order to help our community.